We live in a world where more and more is expected of us. We are bombarded with information every day from every direction. Sharon Fillmore is the Mary Poppins of Family Wellness, and she says that families can learn to see through it all and recognize the truth from the fluff. But how? How do we get the squirrels out of our mind and stay focused? How do we get our kids to stay focused? Well, Sharon gives fabulous ideas today as we raise creative, independent thinkers and asking ourselves, when they do something unexpected, what is the best thing to say in this moment at this time? When we figure that out, it will help them continue talking without shutting down. What they think might surprise you, so be sure to listen to the end as Sharon shares a story that really shows how a 10-year-old brain works, and it gives light into how children think. Does your child have a speech-language delay and you really want them to talk? Do difficult behaviors derail home life and you know the frustration is a communication struggle? Does your child see a speech therapist and you wonder, what do they do and how can I help? If these or similar questions are in your mind, this podcast is for you. Hello, my name is Dinalynn Rosenbusch. I am a speech-language pathologist that has worked with children from birth to 21 for 3 decades. And in my classrooms, I see you wanting to connect with the heart of your child, but their speech and language skills create a barrier. So if you have a kiddo that has difficult behaviors, needs to expand their language or learn to say speech sounds, and maybe even receives speech therapy, stay tuned. Because in this podcast, you will learn how to use your daily life as a tool to communication practice and how to do that practice. You will become confident knowing you are making the difference you want to make. And you will hear success stories of parents who have navigated these struggles already. We'll do this all while focusing on building deep, meaningful connection and confidence in your kiddo. So grab a cup of coffee along with a notebook and pen. It's time to speak in the way your child's brain understands. And that is the language of play. Welcome back. Today is summer solstice in the Northern Hemisphere and winter solstice in the Southern Hemisphere. How super cool. Depending where you live, you have long days of daylight or long nights of darkness. I'm in the Northern Hemisphere, and I am enjoying lovely summer weather and sunshine. Does your family do anything special for solstice? If you do, I would love to hear from you and tell me which hemisphere you're in. Most of my listeners are in the Northern Hemisphere, but there's quite a few Australian listeners too. I'm going to read a review from Aurelius. He writes, "Wonderful conversationalist. Dinalynn is a wonderful host. She's insightful with the questions she asks and gives great perspectives with her years of work in this field. You can learn just by watching the way she communicates. Thank you for gracious hosting." From Aurelius. Thank you very much, Aurelius, for this review. And any of you that have not yet left a review, I invite you to hop on over to Apple Podcast, scroll down to the little teeny purple letters where it says leave a review, and please leave me a review. You see, reviews are what makes podcasts more findable. That means people who need this content will be able to find it easier, and your reviews make that happen. So I thank you already for doing that. I have an announcement. So 1 week from today at 10 a.m. Central Time, so you'll have to do the conversion yourself, is going to be the free summer coaching for a group coaching session. This is only available summer 2024 as I am learning some of the tech things and I need people to join me for that, and you get to benefit too. So this is a win-win. You can come for free coaching, and on the back end I will be figuring out some of my settings, and I thought there was no better way to do it than just get people in by saying, come join us. So the first of only 3 sessions is next week, June 27th, 10 a.m. Central Time. The one after that will be July 24th, and the one after that will be August 20th. They are different days of the week, but they are all at 10 a.m. Central Time. time. And thank you to those of you that contributed your opinions on a good time and day. In the show notes, you'll find that link to join. Now let's listen to this recorded conversation with Sharon Fillmore. Sharon inspires and empowers people to live a life of joy and happiness through excellent verbal communication. She knows the key to long-lasting, loving relationships is the ability to really converse and understand each other. Sharon believes that every conversation is an opportunity to learn. She is also a verbal communication master, an RN, an NLP coach, verbal Aikido master and trainer, and a certified coach. She's also an award-winning author of the book, The Vital Link, 9 Ways to Have More Health, Wealth, and Happiness. Please welcome today, Sharon Fillmore. Sharon, thank you for coming to the Language of Play today. I am so glad that you are here to share your knowledge and expertise with this audience. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here today.
I am excited about it too. Now, I want to start by asking you something that I saw on your webpage, and it was that you are the Mary Poppins of Family Wellness. And I just love the image of Mary Poppins because when we're talking about the language of play, she was a master.
She was.
She was. And so tell me how it is that you decided to use that terminology with yourself.
Well, actually, it's a funny story. I was talking to some friends, and I was, we were, running by some bios and some information. And one of them said, Sharon, you're the Mary Poppins of Family Wellness. I said, what do you mean? She said, it doesn't matter what the issue is. You find a way to resolve it, even if you have to go learn something and come back. And you always find something, and you're always happy, and you're always trying to make it fun. So yeah, you are the Mary Poppins of Family Wellness, and it just stuck.
I love that. Mary Poppins parenting is something that I almost used as a title for my business.
Oh, wow.
Because when I raised my children, I used her as a model for how is it that we can make fun, like you're talking about, embed into the things we don't know, and how can we teach what they don't know in a way that inspires and has fun. So it's a lovely phrase, and my heart is drawn to it. So you say Mary Poppins of Family Wellness. Can you explain what you mean when you say family wellness?
Okay. Family wellness encompasses a multitude of areas. A huge one is communication, because when we learn to talk to one another and really get each other, our communication expands, our respect expands. When you treat people with dignity and respect, it changes their whole world. And by really communicating with people, that creates that respect, particularly when you allow the conversation to go back and forth, regardless of the age of the person.
Mm-hmm. I like that. And you're describing that as wellness.
It is
some people
wellness.
might call it connection, but you're calling it wellness.
Well, it is. If you think about this, it goes into everything. So you want to be a really happy person. What are happy people like? They're joyful. They communicate. They bring you together. And all of that requires communication. And one of the things we forget is communication is not just verbal, right? It's also body language, your verbal cues, the way you present yourself, your voice. All of these things create a language. And it's knowing the other person and knowing how they respond that can make a difference. And knowing how they respond means that you're being observant and you're present when they're talking.
I love that. Of course, that's true. We know that's true. It's not always easy to do.
Oh, no, we live in a world where, like I said, we're bombarded with stimulus constantly. And it's learning how to sit down and just look and really block out this and pay attention to the person you're speaking with. And
blinders on for all those monkeys in your mind that are
exactly.
saying, do this or do that or remember. And our brain squirrels around in every direction. But you're right, to be able to put the blinders on, figuratively, on our own brain so that we can pay attention to the child we're talking to, the spouse we're talking to, or the stranger or a colleague.
It's true. I actually have a little session that we do that is really fun, and it helps to promote people being present. And would you like me to tell you about it?
Absolutely.
Okay. So it's especially fun to do with kids. Kids love it because they giggle so much, and actually adults do a lot too. So
Okay, this is so great because parents, here we are. We're going to get into the meat of something we can do with our kiddos right now. So Sharon, just to remind you that most of the parents that are listening, they've got kids somewhere between 2 and 12. And so, it could be on either end, and that's true. And families often have kids of all, many ages.
Mm-hmm.
So when we're talking about kids in those age ranges, the conversation is so different. But can you talk about this with child in your mind?
Okay. It might not work as well for a 2-year-old, but definitely for a 5-year-old. All right. Definitely.
Okay.
So what you do is you sit and you have your knees touching each other. So you sit across from each other and your knees are touching. And then depending on the age of the child, you can start with 30 seconds and you can go up to 5 minutes. And all you do is look at each other. And you're not allowed to talk. Just look.
So you
And
look at each other's eyes. Is that what you
yeah,
mean?
you can look at each other's eyes and at their faces and just look and watch. And it creates a lot of laughter because you're not allowed to talk, right? So so they giggle even more. And then after you say, "What did you see?" And then you tell each other what you saw. And it's amazing at what people see. And they'll notice a sparkle in the eye or changes of color. They'll always notice your wrinkles, but they love you. So uh, and the thing is, what it does is it teaches to be present and to really focus on one spot, on one person for a period of time. And you start out slow and you work your way up.
So what I'm also hearing from that, as I synthesize what I also know is a problem for many families, and in fact, it's even for adults, in our world of tech, in our world of phones pinging, and we constantly have something pulling our attention in another direction, and it feels urgent when it's an alarm.
Mm-hmm.
We don't really know how to focus very long. I've heard that the average American now is focusing for about 7 seconds at a time.
Yes, I have
That we
heard that.
shift. You've heard that too? Okay. So we shift our attention constantly. I've also heard that when we can focus on something for 30 seconds or more, that we will actually change our internal state, that we can change
Yeah.
anxiety and all of those things by having one lone focus for 30 seconds. I could see this activity being good for an individual
Mm-hmm.
as well as for the connection in the relationship. I see it in multiple ways here.
It expands your ability to focus. And when you change your state, what we call your state or your state of mind, then that'll change, just makes, well, it's like with kids, you know how when you're with a child, they're upset and you say, "Oh, look at this." And they immediately completely change. They go from being upset to being curious, right? Or happier. And it's the same thing with adults. We are no different in that sense. It's changing your state of mind. And by doing that, yeah, it can change everything. You don't, not just anxiety. An example is you're procrastinating, change your state. You're thinking that you can't do something, change the state of mind. And it will automatically go into focus then into that area. And yeah, it works out. It's just learning how.
Let's say that that's exactly what's happening. Maybe our children are a little bit older and they're having a hard time because they are procrastinating
Mhm.
and their attitude is, "I can't." Let's
Yeah.
take the very example you said, and let's say we've got that 12-year-old that thinks he can't do something. But, as a parent, they're capable, but they're thinking that they can't and they're not doing it. They're putting it off. But it seems like there's a lot of emotional involvement in this. How would you actually do that then? What would you do?
Okay. So with a child that's putting something off, the first thing to ask is, "I see you're not doing this. Can you tell me why you don't want to do it?" Because right there, that creates respect and dignity. When you feel that you have dignity, you feel worthy. When you have respect, it means you're not afraid to talk and explain. So by saying, "I see you're not doing this. Can you tell me why you're not doing this?" And then the child says, "I don't believe I can."
I imagine that has a lot to do with the tone of voice that you ask those questions in.
Your tone of voice is paramount. Kids, they can read people better than anyone. Like I know experts at reading body language and voice and tone, and kids, little kids, the younger they are, the better they can read it.
Yeah.
They're
We kind of train it out of ourselves, don't we? By
we
doubting
do.
ourselves and having to accept things we don't like,
Mhm,
being told you're not right, you're just a kid, you don't know. All of that trains that skill right out of you.
mhm. And then very often, what they say they can't do, they've done something similar in the past, but they don't connect the dots. They don't know that there's a good transfer of skills or knowledge. And so by if you know that they've done something similar in the past, you point out, well, you did this, and that's not very different. And often that can make the change. And they can think, okay, and you can say, why don't you try it and see what happens? And if you have time, you can say, I can sit here and watch you if it makes you feel better. Because then they're getting support. Right?
That is good mentoring. I love it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Thank you for
So
that example. I can easily see how that would work. I can even see how that would work with a 2-year-old or
yeah, with the
or
2-year-old,
obviously an adult. So in between here, it'll work with all of us. Yeah. That's
it
very
is
good.
most communication techniques will work with all ages. It's just how you structure them very often. Like you're going to speak
And
differently
the
to,
and I suppose the energy that you come at that interaction with makes or breaks it. Would you speak on that?
oh, definitely. So my children are grown, so I've had every button pressed, literally. Um, and one of the things that happens is you're upset, and it's about doing what I call being matter of fact, that when your child tells you something, be straight faced about it, even though your insides are going, oh my God, why did you do that? And that way, by doing that, they feel open to talk more. And very often when they talk more, you get the real story. When you get upset, they shut down. That's the first thing. Pick your battles. There's when you're looking at when you have well, especially 12-year-olds, they're preteens. They're really trying to not only sort out who they are, they're trying to be older. They're trying to sort of move faster into the grown-up section of their teen lives. So when you're talking with them, it's picking your battles. What's important? What's important to you, to your family? What can you let go? Because otherwise, it's constant uproar.
I like that. Pick your battles and what can you let go of? And then
Mm-hmm.
staying in that energy that is
Mm-hmm.
open, not
Mm.
getting angry. Really
That's true.
important.
That's
One of
important.
the things that you've talked about in the past is the trick being quiet.
Yes, when you ask a question or you get your child to start talking, it's really important that you be quiet. You know that old saying, silence is golden? It's not just golden, it produces a myriad of information because it's natural for people to want to fill the hole, and they will automatically start talking, and you'll hear much more information, and you'll be able to help your family members much more easily if you know more information and also know their perception, right? Because when you perceive something, that's what you believe. When you change your perception, you can change your beliefs and you change your actions and your thoughts. It's like a domino effect. Now, when you're talking to your children and they're telling you one thing, think about how they're perceiving. I'll give you an example. So, I'm gonna use my son when he was about 10, and uh, he decided to throw some balls on the roof of the school, and of course, he ended up in the office. And I was there with him. And the principal said, so why did you throw the balls up on the top of the roof? And he said, well, I wanted to see the janitor take them down. and and I'm looking at him, and the principal's going, whoa, whoa, whoa. So he says, so why did you think it would be good for the janitor to take them down? And he said, well, the janitor was sitting there saying that kids were really good today. He didn't have as much work as usual. And I thought it would be fun for him to take them off the roof.
There's child logic. There is how our children's brains work. Absolutely, that makes sense from a child perspective.
It does make sense from a child perspective. So then the principal just said, okay, so just talk to him and said, and just said to him, so, well, him going up there is dangerous. And he said, it is. He says, yeah, he has to climb a ladder to go up there. And it's very high. And the roof, sometimes, it's slippery and he could fall. And Scott just looked at him and said, oh, maybe I should say sorry.
That's so sweet.
Yeah, and that is a 10-year-old mind, right? It was like he thought it was a great idea.
Yeah. Yep. And if we punish our children or give them their consequences without asking them what were they thinking at the time and really probe with that curiosity, then you're right, we shut them down. But if we can go and probe, there is so much we can learn.
Oh, there is.
I love your examples. This is so true.
It is. And I remember I was sitting behind him and I was really struggling not to laugh when he said that, really struggling. But now what would have happened if the principal had yelled at him or I had yelled at him, he would shut down and we wouldn't have got to the end of the story. He would have had a consequence that did not fit the action.
Right. Which creates all that self-doubt in who he is.
Exactly.
Over time as we bring it into adulthood. Now, I'm going to say you are also a master of communicating with teens.
I love teenagers.
Yeah, I always did too. Now, what can listeners do now to make sure that they pave the way to create good communication by the time that their kids hit those teen years?
There's a number of things. Number one is just what we talked about. Be sure that you ask questions in a good tone, that you're not like, when you're upset, hide that. There's actually a very cool trick that I teach people. I call it stop, drop, and roll. And I didn't coin that phrase, and I wish I did. So what it is you imagine you're rooted to the ground and you see a stop sign. And you just say to yourself, what is the best thing to say in this moment and this time? And it's amazing what will come out. All of a sudden you do, because what happens is your unconscious mind is so more aware of all the surroundings than you are. And it will just automatically tell you what is the right thing to say. And it's amazing how it works. And it works for everyone. It doesn't matter what age you are, it works for everyone.
If we stop and ask the question, what is the best thing to say in this moment at this time?
That's right. And then you automatically get it. It's amazing. And that helps parents to stop and like regroup. I also teach that to children, particularly when they get to a point where, there's a point in school where there's a lot of conflict, who's better, who isn't, all of those things that go on. And sometimes children say things to each other that they don't mean. And then it creates a lot of hurt. So by teaching them this, then very often they won't be as hurtful when they open their mouth. And they'll say like, I'm really angry. I'm really upset you hurt me. Instead of, lashing back and saying something like, nasty.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for your sage advice today. It's very good. You are spot on with what I understand about kids too. Thank you for sharing with our families. Now, before I let you go, you have a book titled The Vital Link. What is The Vital Link?
Okay. The Vital Link has 9 chapters in it, and each chapter helps you to find vitality in your life. There's some on nutrition, not depth nutrition, but how to get good food on the table. And then there is also some on like basically having fun. Like there's a chapter on happiness. There's 3 chapters on communication. There's a chapter on beliefs and manifesting. And beliefs are really important to parents because we come from 2 different families and we bring together all our beliefs and values. And sometimes they don't mesh. And it's about learning to look at them and see which ones work for you and which ones don't. And if you want to change something or let something go. And
so The Vital Link is a book for families, for parents?
It is for parents. However, anyone who picks it up will find something. I designed the book so that
adults.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. I designed the book so that if you want to know something about a specific topic, you can just pick it up, and each chapter has activities and stories so that it solidifies what you do. And then I have a mentoring program that's based on the book, which is highly expanded. It's a full year, so that by the end of the year, you have vitality in 9 areas of your life. So,
Nice.
yeah.
Nice. Sounds like a great resource for people. So listeners, you will find those links in the show notes if you want to buy Sharon's book, if you want to connect with Sharon. Thank you, Sharon, for being with us today. I
Thank you.
appreciate all that you have to say and your time that you take to pour into families.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate being here.
Hey parents, I hope you found this episode helpful. If so, would you please take 30 seconds and share it with a friend who also lives or works with children? I would really appreciate it if you would leave a quick review for the show on Apple Podcasts. I read every review, and it lights me up to know that this show is making a difference. Then come join my Facebook community, where you'll meet other parents who are dedicated to helping their children grow too. You'll find the link in the show notes. Thank you for joining me. Now it's time to go. Let's pop our kiddos in the strollers and go look around outdoors and see what we have to talk about.